You want to be taught these things so you can utilize them and grow in your own way, change things that no longer work based on what you've learned. And that's kind of where that Hierophant comes in. It's like, I'm going to do the work and understand the system so I can go in and change it. It's an earth sign. It's grounding that emperor energy of authoritarian
Mhm.
system, discipline. It's bringing in the sense of why. Instead of the just do, it's the
Mm.
why.
I also have looked at the Hierophant as kind of like the counterpart to the High Priestess,
Mm-hmm.
where there's like this sacredness, there's this devotion to the wisdom, to the teaching, and embodying that. And the Hierophant is kind of like the masculine or the external world expression of that, right? Where it's like, okay, with the high priestess, as we said, there's a journey inward that we're
Mm-hmm.
learning and we're tapping into our inner wisdom. And then when it comes to the Hierophant, it's like, how do I like embody this wisdom in the outer world without falling into that emperor shadow of just like complete authority and supreme power? Welcome to Journey Through the Universe. We are here with another Tarot and Dreams episode. We're going to be talking about the Hierophant in correspondence to our dream space and how that can be related and integrated. And before we get into all of that, Alexis, hi, how are you?
Hello. I'm okay. I'm good right now. I have not been great the last couple of days because we have been having visitors in our home. I have centipedes again, and they not a lot of bugs freak me out. I'm like pretty okay with bugs. These house centipedes freak me out, and I know they're not dangerous. I know that they are just like, chilling in the corner. They're like cleaning their legs all day and then they go out and they eat pests in the house, whatever.
Mhm.
I would be fine with that if they didn't come and crawl on me. The amount of times where I have been woken up because my husband has pulled them off of me, or I have like been woken up to them on my face, just or like in my hair, like I am so freaked out. I don't know what to do with myself. But I vacuumed and I'm kind of like haven't seen any all day, so I'm feeling a little better now. So there's that. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty good and yeah, definitely super like creative. I've been having a lot of ideas spring forward today and that's pretty much it. How are you?
Well, I just want to say, when you speak about that, I'm just like, you know, I'm bugs are okay with me, but yeah, centipedes, they're just it's just too many legs. They move really fast and they're just a lot. So I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Um, yeah, they're really good for getting like spiders and mosquitoes and stuff like that. But I'm this way with spiders, ants, even I hate to say mice, like as
Mhm.
long as you are not disturbing my peace, as long as we can coexist without like you being on me or making it a hard time or chewing up my stuff or crawling
Mhm.
on me in the middle of the night, then I'm not going to mess with you. Don't mess with me. Like if I see like my daughter's really funny about spiders, like she loves bugs, but you know, spiders, which we all have like this innate like fear of spiders or trepidation. Like she wants me to put it outside. So like I'll do that. But like yeah, I can't like there's a rule for me like not in my bedroom, like obviously not on me, and depending on what it is, not in the kitchen, like centipedes whatever scurry along the floor in the kitchen whatever. um so but I totally understand that it's just kind of invasive.
They
um
are invasive because
Sorry.
they lay a ton of eggs and then they like leave. And so it's just they are constantly reproducing and it's it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I was telling Alexis shared this with me earlier today. And one of the things I mentioned was like looking into like, I feel like they have a message for her specifically. So I was like, look into that, looking at meaning, you know, in all spaces, like even if it's like, just something in your home, but if it's like really like you're having a strong emotional feeling with it, just like with dreams, like we say, okay, if this was a dream, what would it mean? Like it's kind of that situation.
Mm,
Like, okay, like it's really literally in my face. What is this trying to tell me? So
absolutely.
looking for the meaning in all things and integrating that not only in the dream space and the waking space and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm doing well. It's been an interesting day. I don't know, like again, Alexis and I talked about this. I don't know if it's like Mercury retrograde ending, Leo season starting, but I've been all up in my feelings. But just more so like not necessarily sadness, but like irritation. And I think
Hmm.
the theme that's coming for me is like using my voice. I was almost at losing my voice, but like standing up for myself, like expressing my feelings, not over rationalizing my feelings, and being confident in just how I feel and my beliefs, my perspectives, because I know sometimes I am very easily influenced by people that I'm close to. And so I think I am getting a lesson right now in how to just speak my truth and let people feel a way about it if they are. I'm sending with compassion, and it's better for me to like share and express it than like hold it in, because that's how resentment, is built. So
100%. I mean, when you keep things in and you kind of just go with, whatever the other person wants, or you're not saying something because of a reaction, like you're holding that in, they don't know. And then they keep doing the same thing. And like you may tell them and they still keep doing the same thing, but at least you understand that that's, a lack of respect from them. Whereas, like, if you don't say anything, they simply just don't know that they're doing something wrong. Um, I mean, who knows? Maybe they know, but that's
yeah.
kind of how I see it is
But
like,
it's not pulled out, spotlighted where they're like, oh, okay.
yeah, and they may have a bad reaction, and you just have to let them have that bad reaction, and you put up your boundaries and do what you need to do and let them have their moment. But I find that it releases a lot to get that off of your chest.
Yeah. And I think people who, have definitely air signs in their big three or a stellium or something like that, or maybe even some earth signs, like we tend to like rationalize our emotions. And I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, I feel my emotions and stuff like that. But like when it comes to other people too, where I'm like, I have compassion and I understand where they're coming from. And I don't want to be a bother and I don't feel like dealing with the emotions or the drama. So I will just like talk myself through it. But it's just like, but our emotions don't work like that. And so what I'm really doing, and this is what I have learned, is that I'm really just suppressing it, because like the behavior will continue and I'll try to rationalize it, but that doesn't make me feel any better. So it's like good to have a conversation and share, just like, I don't know why I'm feeling bothered by this, but I am. And I'm
Hmm.
letting you know. And delivery is everything too.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
that. But otherwise, like, I'm doing well. So I'm really excited to have this conversation.
I'm also really excited to have this conversation, especially because, um, in regards to the Hierophant, my opinion has changed.
Oh, okay. That's a fun
Yeah.
surprise. Okay, well, let's bookmark that real quick. And I want to just reflect on the journey we've been on. So this is card number 5, technically the 6th card, but we started with 0, right? So we went from the Fool to the Magician to the High Priestess. Wait, yeah, to the High Priestess, to the Empress, the Emperor, and now the Hierophant. So just want to touch on this progression. From my understanding, my experience, like with the Fool, as we mentioned, that's like taking that leap of faith, that new beginning. There's like open possibilities with that zero energy and just like almost like a portal or something pulling you in where there's like a curiosity and there's like excitement and naivety and it's just like this fresh start. Then with the magician, there's this like wave of like magic coming through, or just like you kind of feel empowered because like you've had
Mhm.
some really amazing moments, hopefully, in that full experience where you feel the connection to the divine, you feel emboldened, you feel like you can create as you speak, and so on and so forth. And so there's that flow. And then we move into the high priestess, where I feel it's like we talked about this, but the high priestess, it's a beautiful card and energy, of course, but I feel like when I see the high priestess, sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to be in like this deep initiation process.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
do you feel that too? Like,
Oh yeah,
like
because
it's
it's calling you to go inward.
yeah,
And going inward can be a lot of shadow work.
yeah,
So that's a lot of reflection. That's a lot of acknowledging the self, our experiences, and not just the light aspects, but the heaviness too. And like having to reflect and learn and connect with the self in this way. So you're definitely like being almost like warned, like this is going to be a
yeah,
really enlightening experience, but it's definitely not going to be an easy one and it's not going to be a light one.
yeah. And it's like, it's coming back to like even the dreams, the journey within the subconscious, like connection to the moon, therefore like emotions and just it's a lot. The memory and all of that stuff where it's like that's the initiation, it's pulling back deeper layers of yourself. Right. But then moving from that to the Empress, it's like you gain this sense of power and like this grace and compassion, and it's like I don't have to force stuff, like I'm just in this radiance of like my own power and just really coming into my own divinity and that connection with the with nature, right? Divinity being outside of oneself.
Absolutely. And that's where that light comes in. So you
Yeah.
the high priestess was more shadowy aspects of understanding the self, and then the empress is the lighter. There's a little bit more like joy and happiness. It's a little more levity to your experience, and I feel like that comes with that empower, not that the shadow goes away and the heaviness goes away completely, but there's almost like it's like the empress is the nighttime ruler, and then the high priestess is the nighttime ruler, and the empress is that daylight, like sun coming out to
Mhm.
shine.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get to the emperor where it's like taking that power and that personal authority and exerting that or asserting that in the outside world. So being able to um bring in that like masculine type energy where there's like the structure, there's the discipline, there's like things to keep the energy channeled or in flow. Because if we think about the pure feminine energy, that connection to like, I feel like the feminine energy is more fluid, more flowy. It's like balance is essential, right? I have my own personal moments where I'm in that energy, and then it like at some point I'm like, oh my God, I need some discipline, I need some structure, I need like boundaries for myself, and the same thing on the other side. So that's kind of what I feel with the emperor as we progress in that way.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And
And then, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna go on to like that transition into the Hierophant, but go
Yeah.
ahead. I'll go off of what you.
Yeah. I want no, go ahead and share your perspective.
Okay, so this is a little bit of reason why I have changed my idea of the Hierophant, because I have always related it to the emperor. And the reason I have an issue with the emperor is because it's a very authoritarian, like you do this, like you have to do this, you have to be disciplined because of X, Y, and Z. Where the difference with the Hierophant is that it's more like a professor or a sage in this sense, where like it's saying you have to do these things in order to change this. So when you think about somebody who's educating you, you don't want them to teach you something and you stop there with them. You want to be taught these things so you can utilize them and grow in your own way change things that no longer work based on what you've learned. And that's kind of where that Hierophant comes in. It's like, I'm going to do the work and understand the system so I can go in and change it. And I think that's the difference. It adds, it's an earth sign. It's grounding that emperor energy of authoritarian
Mm-hmm.
system, discipline. It's bringing in the sense of why. Instead of the just do, it's the
Mm-hmm.
why. And I think that's such an important aspect because it's really tying in that magician energy where, like, you may be at a higher point in your learning and understanding of the world. You're more educated on what's going on, but you're still learning. And like that aspect is so important, and it really represents kind of like that sage energy. Whereas, like, maybe the shadow aspect of that Hierophant would be more like cult leader, one way,
Mm-hmm.
knowing the system to manipulate it rather than changing it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was so beautifully said. I 100% resonate with that. And I also have looked at the Hierophant as kind of like the counterpart to the High Priestess,
Mm-hmm.
where there's like this sacredness, there's this devotion to the wisdom, to the teaching, and embodying that. And the Hierophant is kind of like the masculine or the external world expression of that, right? Where it's like, okay, with the high priestess, as we said, there's a journey inward that we're
Mm-hmm.
learning and we're tapping into our inner wisdom. And then when it comes to the Hierophant, it's like, how do I like embody this wisdom in the outer world without falling into that emperor shadow of just like complete authority and supreme power? And sometimes even the Hierophant too can represent like having that spiritual counsel or having that, like you said, professor or teacher, like so seeking the wisdom and guidance from another or outside yourself. So I've definitely seen like somewhat of a community aspect associated with the Hierophant, or more like kind of like, yeah, like a council is something that comes to mind, or like some sort of leader of a group, right? And so I want to say that, visuals are everything. And I think that like a lot, not everyone has started their tarot journey with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but at some point you come across the OG, right? And this imagery is so challenging, and I have it here on the screen. So if you are watching or listening to the video, you might want to, watch the video if you're listening to the recording. But nonetheless, like for me, I'll speak personally. This is not everyone, but given the nature of the time, there are a lot of Christian figures or imagery in the tarot.
Yeah.
Um, that was kind of like a necessity. Like if this was going to be a thing, they had to incorporate it as part of society because, if not, then that would be a whole nother question. And you got the heretics and all of that stuff coming through.
Right.
So this imagery has always been really challenging for me. Um, it definitely brings to mind personally, specifically with this deck, like atonement or like initiation is definitely one thing because it's like this Hierophant is bigger. He's like blocking, like almost at a threshold. Again, he's in between two pillars, just like the high priestess, right? So he's kind of like a gatekeeper in a way. And seeing the two keys here, I always tune into that as like, acquiring, this is a time where you're acquiring some sort of wisdom or the key to unlock, this gate or
Absolutely.
whatever this next part of the journey is, right? But like this is almost like a checkpoint, an energetic checkpoint, a lesson that you are going to experience in order to open up the pathway or bring you into the next part of the journey. But this imagery can really trip people up a little bit because of the religious nature of it. But we're going to show also other versions of the Hierophant that can open up like the deeper meaning besides what, is being shown here in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Absolutely. And I do want to say real quick that if you are not watching this video, the Hierophant card that we have on the screen looks like Robert Pattinson. I just I'm looking at the face and I'm like, why is Rob here? Like, what's going on?
Wait, who's that? Who is he? What is he
He's
from?
Edward in Twilight.
What? Oh, wow. Okay. I'm definitely gonna not or be looking at this differently now.
Right? I
That
keep
is
looking at it, I'm
hilarious.
just like, Rob, what are you doing?
Like I can't take you seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is really interesting. And also I'm seeing like these aren't necessarily rams, but it's kind of in the shape of a ram.
It
So
is.
it's like, that's kind of standing out to me a bit too, where it's kind of still carrying over that emperor energy, but it's like, let's deepen this through this process of initiation. So there's like, and what I see here with the Hierophant too, because, we can touch on the astrology. Taurus corresponds to this, right?
Right.
So to me, that also feels like, just this, like the Hierophant itself or this card is a bridge between the mystical and the practical. So
Yeah.
really, like we said, it's like we've had the journey and peeling back the layers and had this sense of empowerment between the Empress and the Emperor. But we're going to check you here, to really bring it full circle and to like root it in a little bit deeper, how to embody this wisdom in the physical. So that is a good way to really receive, like when you get a Hierophant in a message or in a reading, that's a good way to interpret that or perceive that.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out the two things. The triple crown that he's wearing, it feels very like higher spirituality, like closer to the heavens, if you will, but also his feet look like they are flat on the ground, kind of giving that balance and that root connection. So I find that aspect of balance really important for understanding what the goal of that hierophant is. It is finding the balance. It's learning, playing that system so you can change it to make it better, and like rather than learning and becoming a part of the system that doesn't work. And everything that goes hand in hand with going about learning knowledge, or even just like this could be a representation, like the card itself could be a representation of like you being in a situation where you're being taught by a higher knowledge person, a mentor of sorts, and to remind yourself that, what they're teaching you is valuable, but they're not giving you answers. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about earlier with like the cult leader energy. It can also represent the people in the cult, holding on to the information like it is the only answer, like it's the only option, like the person who is in charge of that cult, who is the leader, is presenting it as that is the only way. And I
Yeah.
know I keep kind of touching on the shadow aspect, but I think it's important to acknowledge because we can often find ourselves, especially if we're in a state of desperation, if we really, really feel like we need answers, um, we could rely too heavily on other people who may not actually be helping us the way we need to be helped. We're latching on to what we think the answers are because somebody who we deem as above us is saying it. It's kind of like using discernment and understanding, why do you need these answers? Why can't you find the answers within yourself?
Mhm.
Why can't you come to your own conclusions? Why are you relying on something else? Is it because you want to be comfortable? You don't want to break out of that shell of and learning to understand the reality and all aspects and nuances of a situation? Or do you just want somebody to put a band-aid on it and tell you that everything's okay and you can move on?
Mm.
And then kind of questioning why. Why would you want to keep yourself in a box? Why wouldn't you want to face these things that might be a little bit difficult in order for you to, as you say, level up, taking the keys of knowledge and moving up? Anyway.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's so very timely for as we're having this conversation. Like I was saying with Leo season, as far as like having like being connected to your own sense of authority, right? And it's everything in balance is key because it's like, okay, we want to really trust ourselves. We should trust ourselves. We should be connected to who we are and our own personal truth. And it's great to seek counsel and hear other perspectives so you can kind of get another angle at what you are dealing with or what's coming up for you or what you're experiencing. And this is the point where like that I really tend to focus on for myself and for others that I connect with is that we don't have to believe everything that people tell us, specifically those that we look up to, like our mentors, our teachers, our parents, our family, our best friends. Like everyone has their own perspective and everyone's looking at it through their own filter, through their own experiences, through their own gifts, through their own wounds, right? And so this is the beauty of, we always say take what resonates and leave the rest, right?
Yep.
So again, you don't have to take on someone else's perspective, right? You take what aligns with you, what resonates. And yeah, sometimes we could say that's bias or it's like confirmation. What is it? Confirmation bias or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, like you're going to learn the lesson regardless, especially if you are doing it intentionally, where it's like, okay, like I see where you're coming from and this part resonates, but I'm not quite sure about that. And I'm going to go with my perspective on it. That's totally okay, right? We're all here figuring it out. Like no one has it all figured out, right? And they tend to say, stay away from the people that do, which is like you might have these cult leaders where they're like, this is the way. And I'm not even going to say what religions, you know, perpetrate or not perpetrate, but like pretty much express like this is the way. And
Mm-hmm.
everything else is like gonna basically send you to hell or like a
Exactly.
place where it's demonic or whatever. And so that is like that all is enclosed within the Hierophant, basically.
Right.
And so yeah, I think that was a very important point to make, right? So that like given the context of the dream or the reading, that might be a very important point for yourself, right? Being able to trust your inner voice, seek counsel, but don't take it as absolute truth, right?
Right. Right. I also, one of the aspects I think is important to point out about the Hierophant card too is the aspect of tradition. When it comes to the Empress, it also has that foot in tradition, but it's more so like you do this because it's traditional. Where with the Hierophant, it's like, hey, let's look at our traditions, learn about it, leave behind what doesn't suit us and move forward with what does. And it's like using it in a constructive, very grounded way. Like some aspects of your family culture tradition, some you really love, some you have issues with. And that doesn't mean you can't be rooted in your tradition. It just means that you have to be discerning with what you choose to move forward with. If it doesn't make you feel good, um, but your family does it, that doesn't mean that you have to do it. You can participate in different ways without doing those things that you don't like. So it's really, I feel like the word for the Hierophant is discernment. It's
Ooh,
really like just understanding what's going on and moving forward with growth in mind and knowing that it doesn't stop. There's no like lid to the box. Like it's just continuous and you're always going to understand even the things you learn now, you're going to learn them in a different way, in a different lens in like 10 years, so it can completely change the way you feel about that thing that you learned about.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that pairs nicely with the Taurus correspondent because this is honestly for me, one of the difficult astrological correspondence to the tarot where I'm just like the Taurus, I feel like it's a stretch, but in the context of the practicality, the tradition, like even more of like those shadow aspects of the Hierophant, I could see that with Taurus because Taurus loves their comfort zone. They love to like figure out what works and they stick to it. It's like, why would I change this if it works? But sometimes there has to be like evolution and we have to step out of our comfort zone and and so I can see that connection and also just like that um personal security, right? Like holding on to what feels secure, what feels safe, and
Mhm.
being able to also have that with you, like understanding that your security, your safety is really within. And
Mhm.
so, again, like speaking of the high priestess to the Hierophant, like, how do I carry what I experience within, the realization I've had within, and in this case, that security, that stability, that comfort, and that groundedness, and carry that with me on the journey. And so that could be a big lesson there with the Hierophant energy.
Absolutely. And I feel you on that. It felt a little off it being connected to Taurus for me, because when I think about the Hierophant and what it represents, what comes to mind is Capricorn and Libra.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, Taurus is taking like that Venetian energy, the thought and considering all sides, and but also the earthiness of Capricorn and grounding it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, of course, I'm feeling those two energies. It makes sense that Taurus
Yeah.
is like, I want it to be these two other things, but then at the end of the day, it makes sense what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's give I want to give a different perspective of the Hierophant from different decks.
Yes.
So I am back home, as you all can see if you're watching the video. So I have my beautiful deck, and I'm just gonna share or just pin my screen here. And so I love the Hierophant card in this deck. This is like one of my favorite cards here. And
Oh, that's beautiful.
so we have, I mean, I feel like he's a priest, and that the pyramids are the pyramids of Giza, which are aligned with Orion's belt. And I love how it's just like pouring into him, like through his
Mhm.
crown. And this speaks of the sacred wisdom. This speaks of like that mystical and practical combination, the sacredness, that priest or spiritual teacher energy. And it's like receiving that divine sacred wisdom from, you know, an ancient lineage, that being not only the ancient Egyptians, but also like the possibly the extraterrestrial, like
Mhm.
that Orion energy and that sacred alignment that connects us or opens that portal in that space. And so I just I love this card so much. Okay, so I will share the guidebook interpretation of it. So here we have the keywords are tradition, spiritual guidance, conformity, wisdom, ritual, and mentorship. Zodiac sign is Taurus. The Hierophant embodies traditional values, teachings, and spiritual guidance. He stands as a bridge between the divine and the mundane, offering wisdom and insight gleaned from ancient practices and teachings. This card suggests a period of learning from established doctrines, of seeking guidance from a mentor or spiritual leader. It may also point to the importance of rituals, ceremonies, and traditions in one's life. The Hierophant represents conformity to societal expectations and can also be a sign that you're seeking deeper spiritual understanding. When reversed, the Hierophant might suggest a break from tradition or conventional beliefs. It can indicate a feeling of being restricted or confined by established norms. This position might also suggest mistrust in organized religion or traditional institutions, or it could point to bad advice or guidance.
Mhm.
Love it.
I love that. I that card is so beautiful, and it's so interesting because I didn't even see that there was a person at the bottom at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so like majestically placed with all
Oh,
of the stuff
yeah.
from above coming in. It that is a beautiful card. I love that so much, and the description's fantastic. I mean, even to the point of touching on like, bad advice and like,
Mm-hmm.
mistrust in like say religion and churches or cults. um, but yeah, that was fantastic. I will show my card now too. I am, of course, using from my Deleted Worlds deck. And so the in this deck, the Hierophant is called the Messenger, and the reversed name is the Keeper of Keys. So I'll show that.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, come on the screen.
Oh. Oh, wow. Wow. Hands coming out of the face. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And it's not really like he or she or they, whatever, are in like robes, but they're not, it's not like there aren't crosses on it. It's not, sorry guys, this is like not focusing. But there's no like crosses on it or anything. It's very like it's not. I feel like it plays a huge role in the what the Hierophant means because there's nothing attached to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
like for the traditional Hierophant, it has the crosses on it. It's kind of, giving this impression like it's a part of a actual religion, like a specific religion, where I feel like the Hierophant is actually much more abstract than that. So I understand the original wanting it to be a higher spiritual sage. But I like that with this card, there's no identification on the robes. It's a blank slate. So you have the hands coming out holding that. It's a candle, but it's also representing the staff that the Hierophant is holding in the original. Um, uh, what's it called? The hands are kind of doing some interesting like gestures. That's the word I'm looking for. And then he's holding the key in his hand here. Um, so I'll go ahead and read the interpretation in the guidebook from the Deleted Worlds deck. The messenger symbolizes guidance, wisdom, and spiritual communication. Associated with Earth, Venus, and Taurus, it represents the grounding of divine messages and the connection between the spiritual and the material world. Proceeding from the clouds, which signifies ambition and the unknown of paths, the messenger brings clarity and insight. Keywords: guidance, wisdom, and crossing a threshold. The messenger signifies the arrival of guidance and wisdom. This card encourages seeking and sharing knowledge, grounding divine messages in practical ways, and being open to receiving and delivering important truths. And then the reverse, the Keeper of Keys keywords are secrecy, misdirection, and hidden knowledge. The Keeper of Keys suggests a period of confusion and hidden knowledge where clarity is obscured. This card warns against keeping vital information locked away and emphasizes the need to confront and uncover hidden truths to move forward with a clear understanding. So
Wow.
I love the way that both of our interpretations touch on, I mean, obviously really important aspects of the card, but in a different way. Still
Mm-hmm.
hitting the point, but in a way that, I don't know, I'm very impressed by the different interpretation guidebooks that we get with each deck because they really are completely different from the next. Still
Yeah.
hitting the same themes, still hitting the same understanding behind the cards, but done in their own beautiful abstract way. But yeah, I have since changed my mind on how I feel about the Hierophant.
Yeah.
I no longer am connecting it to the same themes as the Emperor like I was before. And I'm seeing it more as like it feels safer.
Yeah, it
I'm
makes
more,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm more willing to lean into the message coming through.
Well, I also specifically, well, I guess with both your deck and also mine, which I didn't mention, this is Dream of the Nile Tarot. It really brought to light like Aquarius energy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like for me, I've always kind of joked around as, and it could be my Scorpio rising too, but I'm funny about sharing spiritual teachings or information, like different practices. And it's not necessarily me sharing it myself. Of course, I'm a little bit trepidatious, even though I do share, because I know we're in a time where it's important to remember these things. But then also when I see other people sharing like their different practices and things that are really, I feel sacred and powerful, like I get concerned about it ending up in the wrong hands
Right.
or like people not really um taking it seriously or having any reverence. That's the word I'm looking for, reverence for this information, this wisdom, these practices. And so I like I said, it could be the Aquarius or the Scorpio, but I felt like I was someone in the past where I'm like, no, we need to keep this locked down. Like you need to be initiated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Need to go through this process, and like we're all going to go through the process together, and then we can receive the wisdom. It's like, when you have the fraternities or sororities and they have to go through that period, not that it has to be anything intense like that, but I just feel like the easy accessibility to some of these things, I understand why the Hierophant is a important figure in this deck and just in the journey in itself, right? So I really have a respect for this card. Like it used to bore me whenever I got it. I was just like, okay, different than the emperor, but I was kind of just like, I always felt like I was being gatekeeped when I saw it. Like that was my term for a long time. I'm like, oh, the gatekeeper. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a different kind of oh shit than the high priestess, but still it's like, okay.
I love that you mentioned that though, because I do think it has a lot to do with our Scorpio rising. Because I have to say, I don't have any reason behind it at all, aside from I just don't want people to know something. Like
No.
I sometimes I just want it to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes it's important that you just have your own experience and you don't have to share everything with the world. But I do think that it does hinder to not share some things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I definitely feel that Scorpio. But again, I don't have any reason. Like I don't care whose hands it goes in or
Yeah.
what. Like I just want this for myself.
Right.
I just wanted to stay in my deep reflection pool for me and only me. But like if it's gonna help people out, why not?
Right. Yeah. So that's what I always tell myself. I'm like, no, this is a new era. I really feel like strong connections to the past because I'm like, no. And that makes sense because I felt myself to be like I really connect to like that priestess
Mm-hmm.
type. And like again, similar to the Hierophant energy, the priest or whatever, like there's an initiation to gain access. Like even if you gain some access as a priestess, like there are many different levels and just yeah. So it's a whole like there's a rite of passage that I think that's really important. And we shouldn't just like there should be reverence for certain things. So I totally relate to the Hierophant in that way. So
Mm-hmm.
it's probably a great time to move into the dream space with it. And so I just want to share with you guys, and we share this back in our very first episode, just speaking generally to tarot and dreams and how they are a beautiful practice to integrate. One of the practices that we have shared pretty much in every episode is the fun, the beauty, the magic of using the tarot cards like for dream divination in the sense of like placing a card that you want to connect with under your pillow to see what messages that it has for you in your dream space. So we did that. That's one of the things that you can do. And of course, you can also, you can do a tarot reading to uncover deeper messages within your dream or clarity and so forth. And you might receive the Hierophant in that dream. And so we want to discuss the how the Hierophant can show up in the dream space.
Absolutely. And there's so many different ways it can. I mean, with all of these cards, it's kind of like you have a general theme, but then it's also like nuanced for you personally too. So how you connect with the card, how you connect with like what comes to your mind when you look at this card. So some of the themes you can find in the dream space from the Hierophant are, a professor or a sage. That being said, being in a classroom setting or a setting where you're learning, you know that you're learning, you're gaining knowledge. Revealed messages or sudden spiritual understandings, like all of like you're in the dream and all of a sudden something clicks and you see something from a completely different perspective. This is the kind of thing where you wake up in the morning and you're like, that's it, I have to write this down, this is important for my path forward. And it's just like I said, it's all of the sudden you just know. Seeing different or multiple sides of a situation that might come up in your dream space where it presents the problem at hand that you're facing maybe in the waking space, but from different perspectives. So you're observing from all of the possibilities, you can get a better understanding of how to move forward. Mysterious energy might be showing up in your dream space. You might have, say, like void energy where you don't know what's ahead. And I feel like that's a good representation of the Hierophant because you're moving towards this thing. You just don't know what it is yet, but you're interested and excited to learn. And you can even be in the position of being that spiritual guide or that professor, that sage, and, observing like how you're teaching and how the people who you are teaching are taking in the information. Like if you're in a classroom and you're teaching the class, are the students paying attention, or are they messing about and not paying attention?
Mm.
Are they interested? Are they asking questions? Are they blank? There's no emotion at all. Like, are you interrupted? Paying attention to how your ability to teach and how that relates to, your waking space. And then, of course, problem solving and investigation. You could have a dream where it's like Clue, where you have to start, looking at a situation and deducting information and going on an adventure and understanding something differently because it showed like almost like a murder mystery novel, like that could kind of show up in your dream space, but instead of it being like, at the end you find out the murderer, at the end you find out how to resolve an issue. So that's kind of what I have in regards of how it could come through in your dream space.
Yeah, so similar to you, I have the same perspective as far as like the learning environment. I'll say like sacred spaces,
Mm-hmm.
similar to the high priestess, like ritual objects such as like candles, altars, scrolls, books, like those like teaching aspects. But what I will also say with the dream itself, like I feel like dreams itself are like Hierophant, of course, high priestess energy,
Yes.
where they're like guiding and they're can be showcasing a lesson. Like in itself, dreams are lessons, dreams are guidance. So in that sense, I feel like you can even just we can like step outside of it all and look at it as like the dream as a Hierophant type experience. But one of the things that stood out to me in reference to my dream experience with putting it under my pillow. So I've had the Hierophant under my pillow for 3 nights. And I'm sorry to say, I don't remember like the details of pretty much 2 out of the 3 dreams. But what I will say is that there has been a recurring theme of like traveling in
Oh.
many different ways. But what I feel is like the Hierophant aspect, again, is more of like this broader context of like the recurring dream, like it being a recurring theme or a recurring experience. I feel like we talked about recurring dreams before, like it's like your psyche is like, okay, pay attention to this. Like there's something that we're really trying to point out to you, and that teaching or guiding aspect of dreams is really strong because it's like you're seeing the same thing over and over again. And we know, like, when it comes to learning, sometimes it's good to like see things repeatedly to really let it sink in and land in the way that it's intended to. And so, in that way, I get the sense that like that experience kind of felt like the Hierophant energy for me. Also in the dreams that I had, specifically the one this morning, there were a lot of people involved. So it started out with my mom, my daughter, and myself in one place. And then we were driving back to either her house or my house. And then we were going to catch a plane and go somewhere else. But by the time we got to her house, there were like 4 or 5 other people that were, it was like people just like added themselves to the trip, but we were all going to fly or travel separately and meet in the same place. And it wasn't a big deal. It's like, oh, we'll get there when we get there. Like there's a, like, it was kind of this understanding that, okay, there's like an event or there, like we all need to be there at this particular time, but like we had time to get there. Right. So it's like, oh, I might get there a day before, a couple of hours before, and we'll just meet up and connect when we get to that point. And then I remember at one point in the dream, I can't remember if it was one of my friends from that actually I had a coven with, like during my first spiritual awakening, or it could have been Amen from House of the Dragon. I can't remember which one, but they both were a part of that group. But I remember I was so excited because I was like, oh, I think that we're on the same plane. Like we didn't plan that, but and I was like, another major part of the dream was that I, for the love of me, could not figure out what time my plane was leaving. And it was
Oh.
like I was helping other people out, but I'm like, okay, like let me just figure out what time my plane is leaving so I can get ready to go. And like I just couldn't figure it out. But then I was like, oh, I feel like your time and my time are the same time and we're going to travel together and that'll be really exciting. And so that excitement, that energy was in the dream, but I never found out and I ended up waking up eventually. So I felt like that community aspect, the recurring theme, the journey, yeah, the event, that was, yeah.
I love this dream so much. Um I so there's so much that comes through. Just like listening to you talk about it, what it makes me think about is the journey through life with the people around you, and how even though you may not be involved in each other's lives, you reconnect and then go your own way and reconnect, and how you learn from that journey of separation and
Yeah.
being together, and what it means to not have them around versus what it means when they are around, how you warp and change versus their activity in your life versus their non-activity in your life. And there's something really important about that aspect of not knowing the time that I think is important, because you don't know how life is going to navigate itself. You don't know when your friends are not going to be around, like in your scope, and you don't know when they're going to come back, because it's so random and it's so dependent, because we're on our own journeys. We have our own things coming up, like, something really intense could happen and it pulls you into self isolation, and then something happens and you're triggered to reach out to someone you haven't talked to in a while. And it's kind of like acknowledging how each of these moments were important moments in your life, and like how you move forward with that.
Yeah. No, it's like it's funny as I was sharing it, I was really thinking about it. I'm like, oh shoot, it's all clicking. Like maybe not necessarily the Hierophant piece. Like I feel like the overall, like the fact that it's a lesson, it was recurring, the journey and all that like feels clear, but then like the having different routes and arriving, I don't know, like it's landing in a little bit different and deeper. So, and then what you shared, that just it's coming together. And it was so funny because I was like, I was beating myself up because I'm like, I didn't write this down. Like I literally needed to write it down for something, but I wrote down a little bit and I didn't even have to look at it.
And
Um,
you remembered what was important.
I remember what was
Like,
important.
that's what's important, is the details that do come to the forefront of your brain. And I do want to say too, like, this dream feels very reflective of the Hierophant, because it's like shared knowledge and knowledge, like your own individual knowledge, but then shared knowledge,
Yeah.
their individual knowledge, and then what they share with you, and how that integrates with being in each other's lives. I don't know. I feel like that whole, even the experience of like being kind of anxious about the time, but then remembering that it's okay, you're all with these people, so you are safe, essentially. Like, you don't have to worry about that aspect. I feel like that even is, you had an issue, you solved the problem, and then you were more understanding of the situation after. I feel like it's highly connected to the Hierophant in
Yeah.
a variety of different ways.
That's so
And
interesting.
I also just love that too, because you slept with the Hierophant under your pillow, so of course those messages are
Yeah.
coming through so clearly.
Yeah. So what about you? What was your dream experience with this card? And I'm really excited to hear.
So I only remembered to sleep with the card last night. So this is my dream from last night.
Mhm.
I was in a big room in a high-rise building. It was cold and dark, mostly a void. So I'm in like this apartment. It's just this one room, giant apartment in a high rise building. And it's completely void aside from two areas. An area on my left, which is like dimly lit. It's like a dimly amber lit. So kind of like your lighting right now.
Mhm.
And essentially, it's my husband at this old timey bar laughing with a bunch of friends. But the dream people, I can't see their faces. I only see my husband. And then on the other side, the right, is a birthing pool, same dimly amber lit
Oh.
birthing pool. And it's my sister-in-law, and she's giving birth to one of her children. And I'm in the middle in the void. So where I am, it's dark, it's cold, and I'm just observing. But as I look over at the birthing pool area that's lit up, the perspective shifts. But it's not just I'm like in the like I am behind my sister-in-law giving birth. It's now like our positions actually change. Like I am no longer the observer, but I'm actually going through the experience as myself. And it switched backs and forth a couple times before I'm just standing in that in between space. Then the dream shifts, and I am walking into this long, old-ish bathroom, mostly white. Still slightly dimmed light, but not as warm tone. Like it's a little brighter than that. And I walk in, and there's someone in the bathtub. And now, when I do walk in, it's from the perspective of the toilet, so not first person.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I walk in, it switches to first person. Now I'm looking at
Yeah.
the bathtub, and I realize that the person in the bathtub is me. And I apologize, and I say that I just have to use the bathroom, and then I'll be out. So I go into the bathroom, and I sit on the toilet, which is right next to the bathtub. And as I'm using the toilet, the person in the bathtub, who is me, overflows the tub to such an extent that it's like at my waist. And I flush the toilet, and when I flush the toilet, it drains all of the water from the bathroom, not just the toilet. And that was the end of my dream. It was bizarre, weird, like I can't explain it. I haven't thought about like the dynamic as much because it just happened today, and I've been doing a bunch of things. But I did find that it was wildly interesting.
Yeah, and for the fact of like, I feel like what came to mind at the end of it was like an epic release. Like that's what I heard in my mind. Like the cleansing from the bath and the toilet. Like whenever toilets are in the dream for me, it's like the fact that because you use the toilet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like one of the biggest things, like a common dream is like you are looking for a toilet, but like you can't find one or they're all dirty. You can't relieve yourself. So it's like you relieved yourself and you were cleansed in that process. And then you flush it and then it all goes down the drain. And it's like
Yep.
the cleanup is done. You don't have to worry about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
wherever it goes, that's where it goes. Like that. Wow. That was powerful. And then just like so as far as like the Hierophant aspect to me like it's the water like the bath like I think of like a baptism type experience like that
Mm-hmm.
to me feels like sacred especially for me personally like when you mention the drain that feels like a ritual for me because I love doing those spiritual baths where like whenever I'm in the bath I basically will watch the water go down the drain and say whatever I need to say, whatever I'm releasing. And so for me, as like an interpreter, that's the first thing that came to mind. And then just like the other part of the dream where you were kind of in space, maybe like, or you in the void. So what
It
was it
was
like black?
in
Oh yeah, you said the amber light. Yeah.
I'm like in this I know I'm in a high-rise building, and
Yeah.
I know that I'm in the apartment, but the apartment is completely pitch black, and
Mm.
it is the void. It's not just like not lit. And the only parts that are lit are a side to the left of me and a side to the right of me, which is the bar and the birthing pool. And when I think about this, if I'm being honest, to me it reflects finding a balance between fun and responsibility.
Okay.
Um, but also the aspect of creation,
Yeah.
like honing
Yeah.
into that energy of creation, like maybe like taking what I am able to and putting my energy into creation. But that requires work, it's responsibility. And I think I'm kind of like observing the aspects of having fun and being comfortable and not really doing what I need to do, but having a good time, but maybe even being bored. Whereas, like, this other aspect where it's this huge life change, this huge responsibility you can't really go back from. And maybe like just kind of being stuck in the center of that. And I feel like this is a uh that for me this feels like it relates to the Hierophant because of the aspect of problem solving and observing and learning from the self and the experiences of others,
Mm-hmm.
how they experience those big shifts, those big differences in life, whether it's being stuck in kind of a sense of play and fun and relaxation versus like being in a sense where you create so much responsibility that it overwhelms you, and like how to find the balance between the two.
Yeah. And I feel like the birthing, just the representation of that, like the birthing pool is like initiation. Because when you give
Mhm.
birth, that is like leaving one threshold into another. It's the initiation into motherhood, um,
Right.
or being like a caregiver in that way. So that feels so very aligned. And wow, what like powerful dreams we had.
I'm like buzzing with excitement. It was
Yeah,
such a fun experience. It really honed into just observing things that we've experienced. And again, like that aspect of taking it and evolving, taking the
yeah,
information and the knowledge and evolving, learning more about yourself and becoming more of the person that you're supposed to be because of it. And just, I love it.
I love that so much too. Um, yeah, and just to touch on, I mean, this kind of goes unsaid, but if you find this in a reading, in reference to a dream that you had, everything that we shared, applies given the context of, other cards possibly in the spread, as
Absolutely.
well as like your dream itself. So just looking at those different elements and seeing what speaks to you. Um, but yeah, wow. I mean, I am really like I love this journey because I'm developing a deeper connection with the archetypes. And yeah, it's lightening up our initial views of certain cards, um,
Absolutely.
and really just rooting in the love for the others. And so speaking of love, the next card is going to be the lovers. Oh, I'm so excited. That's so perfect. Um, I can't wait to have that conversation as I have some interesting perspectives on that card. Um, but yeah, any last words or anything for dreams in reference to the Hierophant or anything like that?
I feel very complete with this topic. I loved discussing the themes and how it showed up for us. And if you guys have you either put your Hierophant card under your pillow and you have a dream in relation to the Hierophant, you received messages from that Hierophant card, feel free to leave us either a message in the comments about it if you'd like, or you can email us at the innerverse podcast@gmail.com. Um, and also, if you want guidance and interpretation from us, feel free to send us a message.
Yeah, awesome. And please follow and like if you're enjoying our content. That really helps us out. And we will see you all next week. Sweet dreams.
My dreams.